All right, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and what your role and responsibilities are?
Yeah, my name is Parker. I work with 10-4 Technology, and I also work with a number of other companies through as a consultant, but primarily with 10-4. There I am sales executive, and then with the other companies, I'm sort of a fractional CRO as well.
Uh,
Um, so one of the biggest, yeah. So I guess that answers that question. Did you want me to also talk about some of the things I've encountered?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks that companies in the mid-market, so these are companies that are not startups. They've been in business for a number of years. They often are headed their go-to-market's headed by their CEO or president or someone who's on the executive team.
Uh-huh.
And they are struggling to find talent in the sales space that they can hold on to. That's going to be a return on investment for them, right?
Uh,
They're paying a base, they're paying commissions, and one of two things happens: the base is too high, and the burn rate it adds to the burn rate, and then eventually they get rid of that person, or the base and commissions are too high, and even though they're selling, they're not selling enough to cover that burn rate, and so. Um, I think getting that number right is a challenge, and then getting the system right to make sure that anyone can land in it, any competent person can land in it and do a good job at selling. So I see
right.
that. I see those are the biggest challenges I see my clients run into.
So recruiting or hiring sales talent now, do they have a process once they onboard them to go through to help them get their sales techniques up to par?
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I help people put that system together. So
Okay.
yeah, the first thing I mentioned was the pain point, and then the second thing is how I solve that pain point, right? I help them, depending on the industry, there are different things that can be done. And if you're selling jet airplanes, you're going to have a completely different base than if
Yeah.
you're selling IT services, right? Or
Uh-huh.
office equipment. But at the same time, there's a formula in place that makes it make sense for the company and then makes sense for the rep.
Got it. And then how are these leads being generated for these people, for the sales team?
That's wonderful. That's a great question because I think a lot of people just see salespeople as these magical unicorns, right? They're gonna show up and there'll be a
Close
marketing
everything. Yeah.
built-in marketing, and this is gonna generate. And indeed, I'm in that situation now. So as a sales executive, my job is to generate demand,
Hmm.
create leads, uh, prospect those leads, put them into the pipeline once they become actionable, and then close them. So in a way, it's unlike sales and marketing all put
Yeah.
together, right? And I think that's the way most people in the SME world see salespeople, right? You're going to hire the salesperson, and I can just for once finally just focus on operations, and they're just going to run with it.
Right.
So yeah,
I yeah, it seems like that never really happens because usually I find like in smaller companies, the owner is the one who's kind of generated the business through referrals or they have some type of funnel, but it's not big enough necessarily that way they can scale the business.
right.
So when you come into that, what are some examples of techniques that you use to find additional or increase the pipeline?
Well, networking,
Yeah.
making sure that you're doing account-based marketing, just so you know what your ICP is, and really making it narrow, identifying that there are only so many
Yeah.
in the geographic area that you can serve, and then calling them all and making sure that they all know who you are, and just kind of making yourself ever present, you know.
So
I think that's, by narrowing down the market, you can replicate the work of a marketing campaign somewhat,
uh
and that makes it a little bit more palatable as a salesperson.
so you're doing like you're identifying user lists based on maybe LinkedIn and you're going through and uh starting to build relationships with them and you're segmenting it out based on whatever niche it may be.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're establishing the relationships. And
Yeah,
then
so
you,
I need to
no
make a move.
worries.
So you can see some of the background here as I move, but
Yeah,
go
no
ahead.
worries. Yeah, and then you're nurturing those relationships over a period of time. So what do you see on average, say for a small business who has a, a software-based company or SaaS, what do you see their average pipeline look like? Or the average time to sale look like?
Yeah, so even though you may have noticed that I had SaaS as a big part of my brand, I've been working mostly on B2B
Uh,
consultative sales. That's a big part of what I do.
yeah,
So just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to
no
come right
worries.
back. Just 1 sec with me. Uh,
No worries.
yeah, so was I saying, um, what was the question that you just asked? It was a good question. I remember that.
It was about the time it takes to close a lead. Essentially, you've got your pipeline. So from initial contact, building the relationship, doing discovery to closing a contract.
Yeah, so it really depends on how the lead was sourced.
Uh,
If I always this is something that's kind of proprietary to me, but I like to if I'm creating the demand, then it's going to take a little bit longer. It might take 3 or 4 months.
uh,
Whereas if the demand was already created and for whatever reason they're in the market, they're searching, and then I either encounter them or they come to us through SEO or something like that, then I would say that 2 months
okay. But yeah, you got your warm leads and cold leads. It
for sure. Yeah,
sounds
and
like,
then
yep.
if if depends on the market as well because sometimes they may have contracts with current suppliers
Uh,
that they may just get ready to push the button right away, but they can't get out of that contract and they don't want to have to double pay for the same service.
yeah.
So that can push something out. In fact, I sold something in January that I'm waiting until July um, to um, to sign to get that. Well, the contract's signed, but it's
Uh,
just a matter. So I can either say that that's signed, or I can say that it's not ours until they become a client in July.
yeah.
So
I
so
find
it's hard to say like when does a prospect become a client? Are they a client yet? It's kind of hard to say.
I would say as soon as they start paying.
As soon as they start paying, that's what I say, right? Because that's
Because
that's
you can
certainly what
lose
my
them for
bank
any
account
reason,
says.
right? Like all
Well, I
this,
mean, so now they're kind of legally locked in, but you're right. My bank account tells me that they're not a client yet.
yeah, for sure. They can be
Yeah,
locked in. I've had plenty of businesses where something changes in the business, they go out of business, they, make a shift, new owners take over,
absolutely.
the business gets bought out. So until that first payment hits, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
that's when you're a client.
So that's a 7 month turnaround. And that was actually a month and a half sales cycle
That's not bad.
to the signature, right? But
Yeah.
then plus seven.
Plus set, yeah, that's the hard part. Selling them quick. Um,
Mhm.
so it sounds like if you were to say, if you have business and you're looking to scale and you've got, you're the only person doing sales or they have a couple people doing sales, they want to grow their leads, how would you create that demand and awareness? Like what would be some steps you would take in kind of your integrated or omnipresent approach?
Uh, Give me a little bit more background on the client.
All right,
This might
so
require you to come up with some hypothetical
yeah,
situation, but it does make a difference.
okay, so I've got a business. We have a SaaS-based business. We're selling a software solution, say to accountants or legal, and we're
Okay.
looking, we've got this platform. This got, right now everything's got AI integrated into it,
Yeah,
and we're trying to bring on more subscribers or more clients. So that way, we provide this service as a solution.
that's great. So, accounting is a funny one, right? They're two different markets for accounting. They're the behemoths,
Yeah,
right? And it's not just the big six, it's more like the big 260. These are accounting firms are enormous or have multiple locations or have,
yeah,
hundreds, possibly, dozens or more accountants, and then on top of that, staff.
like H&R Block.
Okay, so now someone like them, I'm thinking more like PricewaterhouseCoopers,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So H&R Block is a unique situation in that they kind of have their own software and that they're 1099s and it's a completely different kind of business
Okay.
model. But and then you also have the other tier are the smaller accountants. These are
Yeah.
the hometown accountants that are everywhere in the US and in the world, and there are too many of them to count.
Yeah,
But
let's target the ones where they're on every corner because that seems like one of the targets a lot they're trying to do is kind of this,
I
there's a
love it.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So something like that, the go-to-market's gonna have to include some sort of marketing component. It's SaaS,
Uh-huh.
right? So you're gonna have to create if there's already a product out there that competes with this product, then it becomes very easy. You set up your keywords, you create your campaigns, you create some sort of funnel that's going to feed the interest from people who are in the market to buy, right?
You talk
And then
about
at the
Google
local,
Ads.
it could be Google Ads, it could be LinkedIn ads, it
Okay.
could be a number of different ways to capture existing demand.
Uh-huh.
And then apart from that, it helps to be able to, and the way that I kind of excel at selling would be going to market by looking at your local market and
Uh-huh.
making sure that you can dominate. If this product has never been used before, right? This is right out of the starting gates. Am I correct?
Say it's coming out. Maybe it's got a little bit of history, so they got some client testimonials and maybe some case studies of success it's had. And they're trying to
Okay.
build off that, right? They just got through their Series 1 funding or their angel investor funding.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's a different story. Okay. So now something like that. If there's a need for market validation, and I think market validation for software really happens when you have scores of clients and not just one or two great case
Yeah.
studies. There's nothing like proving that you have a business than making money and being profitable. And I think that's going to require scores of clients that I would spend as much effort locally as I do on the phones calling those leads that come through the campaign,
Uh-huh.
making sure that, I mean, I live in Miami, right? So I'd make sure that everybody in South Florida who's an accountant knows about the product,
Uh-huh.
right? So you're going to get people in Illinois and in Toronto and, different places buying into the product as well as the campaigns work. But you want to make sure, and that's marketing's job, but you want to make
Uh-huh.
sure that from the sales perspective, um, you're getting local buy-in because it's a lot easier to leapfrog from one successful market to another than it is to move to domination through casting a wide net over all of North America, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective because if you go in and dominate a major market, then that shows success. You can move to another market. Because I think a lot of times
Absolutely.
companies will, they go, okay, I want to spend whatever, like a small budget and cover the United States because we target everywhere versus going and say, okay, we're just going to hit up Miami or New York or LA or something.
Correct. And I mean, you can only, I mean, I always say you can only spread yourself so thin before you
Uh-huh.
disappear.
Yeah.
And, the United States is the biggest market that's ever existed in humankind, right?
Yeah.
So it's a, just and from my vantage point here, I'm looking out the window and I could see all of South Florida, right? Because I'm pretty high up. And so there's enough accounting happening here
Yeah.
to make a company like that very successful. And there's a company here called Modern Medicine that you might have
Uh-huh.
heard of.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in South Florida. They have a Florida, sorry, they have a medical practice management solution. It's SaaS, right?
Uh-huh.
And they dominated this market 15 years ago, 20, I would say 12, 15 years ago, and then spread out to the rest of the world. And the way they managed after their Series A, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know them intimately. I just know
Uh-huh.
as a member of the tech community down here, I remember when they took over a lot of small clinics in the South Florida area, and then when they went to their Series B, they expanded out. And now, if you go to Vancouver, you're going to run into people who are using their software en masse, right?
Uh-huh.
Or Los Angeles or whatever. But up until 12 years ago, it was just local,
Oh.
and they did a great job at creating a solid client base locally. And that was a great story to take to private equity, venture capital, et cetera, and say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're able to do. If you can add anything that helps us scale, that's great. But
Yeah.
we know that this product works, and we already have certain clients in different parts of the country because a lot of clinics were either purchased by those companies or they have um, branches in different areas already. So we've already expanded out enough, but we just need extra funding to expand out more. That's a much better place to be in than
Yeah.
you know, yeah, we have clients all over the place, but only 12 total, you know?
Got it. Yeah. No, interesting. And then yeah, yeah, we dominate this market. We're looking for funding to expand. That does seem more appetizing than, hey, we've got a couple clients throughout the country and
Yeah.
we want to continue to build that. Um, so what you see with that, how does that impact your own consulting business? Like what's helping you generate clients? Same type of relationship building? Are you running campaigns like, for the consultants who are looking to try and do something similar like a CIO? Like what?
Well, I primarily put my time into 10-4 technology right now and
Okay,
building out the market for this company. They have me full time, so this is what I'm focusing on.
got it.
And that's indeed what I'm doing today. Right before and after this call, I go back to doing that. So, I don't know if I can answer that question in terms of what I do on a daily basis with
Got it.
10-4.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. No, but yeah, if you've got any insight with Ted 4, how maybe you're helping them scale could be insightful.
it's a numbers game. It's very similar to what you're doing. You talk to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and yeah.
What do you, that'd be interesting. What do those numbers look like? Like I remember when I was doing like mortgage loans that I was selling those, it was a smile and dial, right? Like we get the sheet for the title company. It was just, I got to hit 100 dial. I got to dial 100. Out of those
Hmm.
100, I'll get 10. Out of those 10, I'll get maybe three apps. And out of those three apps, and out of like 20 apps, I'll get like three sales.
Yeah,
So it's
similar,
like, yeah, similar.
very similar. Yeah, similar. The smile and dial is an argument that it doesn't work so much in this industry.
Hmm.
Um, it could. Because there are cracks out there, right? There's someone
Yeah.
who is unhappy with their vendor, and you call them on the right day, and they pick the phone up, and
Yeah.
it's the right person. But the chance of it being the right person on the right day, the right
Yeah.
situation, and the
Probability.
end of their contract, and yeah, you're not far off of getting struck by lightning in terms of odds, right? Uh,
Yeah.
not when there are lots of people in your business community that need the service and that you can either meet by referral or by networking or by warm calling, or there are lots of different ways that you can connect with people who already have the need to buy, and that's what you kind of have to be in the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
rather than just happen to make the right phone call at the right time. Because that, I don't know, my phone rings all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm in sales. I pick the phone up because I know it could be a client,
Yeah.
but I'm very quick to hang up and it's not a client.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
I don't know about you. Yeah, exactly. So
It's
if
like
some,
all day. Spam caller, spam caller, spam caller. I'll even pick them up, and sometimes there'll be potential clients calling
yeah,
me. It's just you get so used to not taking those calls, like got to pick it up because like
yeah,
so many
I pick it
numbers.
up every time because
Yeah,
it could be a client, but I hang up fast. If it's I just
yeah,
say no thanks, etc. I try not to. I don't want to go to sales hell, right?
yeah,
By dissing other salespeople. But look, I mean, I get off the phone quick because I just think, I mean, our industry is a very valuable industry in terms of the value of the service, right? It
uh-huh.
costs money, and I just don't see people. I don't see uh I don't know, an accounting firm with 50 people um turning over their entire IT department to us on a phone
Uh,
call. Right?
yeah,
I mean, that's maybe back in the Gordon Gekko days, that's exactly how it
yeah.
was done. But now, just yeah, that's never going to happen. And if they do, you kind of have to question their judgment. What sort of
They're
client
moving
is
that
this?
fast. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, can they? What sort of client are they that they would that they're so quick to drop? their current supplier
Yeah,
on the phone like that? What about the existing contract? And there's just so many things that don't lend to a cold call close.
right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I know. What's interesting what you say is having warm leads. And I think a lot of people wonder is like, how do they get to the warm lead part? How do they get to the part where they're not focused on the cold calling, they're not focused on cold outreach, but they have this
Mhm.
established. How do you get to the point where you have warm leads coming that are predictable?
That's tough. I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. And I certainly see it in the industry, and I
Uh-huh.
see it in other industries where people just don't know. But you have to what to do, but you
Uh-huh.
have to talk to a lot of people. You have to be in the right circles. I think we're very fortunate living here, and I'll tell you a little bit about me, and then I have to
Yeah.
drop off
Okay.
pretty soon.
No worries.
But like, and then actually, I have some questions for you
Yeah, yeah.
afterwards.
Okay.
But I used to sell abroad in Eastern Europe and back in the day when it was just starting to develop and back then the economy was much smaller there than it is here in the US. And whereas you can be close to a lot of opportunities, there weren't a lot of opportunities happening. So you can be in the right place at the right time, and then there might be two opportunities. Here in the US, being in the right place at the right time, there are dozens of opportunities.
Yeah.
In what you were saying with accounting software, oh man, I mean, besides the fact that you're competing with some serious software that's like created by Intuit that probably does
Right.
what you
Yeah.
do with flying colors. So there's that, right?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there are dozens of people who need the software.
Yeah.
So you can, if you're out and you're talking to people and you're making connections, you're gonna have leads.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. You expand your circle. The more you expand your circle, you'll find a center of influence that you could, you know, befriend and have a
exactly.
professional relationship. No.
Yeah, and if you have the kind of funding that you were talking about, Series B funding, I mean, you're making
Yeah.
millions of dollars, and you can throw, yeah, if you're not doing Google Ads, if you're not creating landing pages, if you're not doing LinkedIn campaigns, if you're not good at industry, if you're not sponsoring industry events, then
Yeah.
what are you doing with the millions of dollars, That's that
Product
that
development. I don't know how many guys you got to hit in the head. Stop the product development. They're trying
absolutely,
they're trying to make this golden product that you're like, dude, you're gonna have no one that you have no one to sell to. Like, what
exactly.
good is it? Yeah, I've come across
Yeah,
that a handful of
yeah.
times.
I totally agree with you. And then I think when it comes to you're never going to out product develop into it.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
going to happen.
yeah,
But you can position yourself better than they are in the minds of people.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Um,
Jason, I have a couple questions for you. And
no
if we have
problem.
about 3 minutes, if that's okay with you,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
tell me what